2020 may seem like a long time from now, but remember, it's only 3 seasons away. So in this video, I'm going to try to predict the top 5 teams in the year 2020. Who will have fallen from grace and who will rise to the top. What's up guys, my name is Mark, and in no particular order, we're kicking off the top 5 teams in 2020 with number 1, the Milwaukee Bucks. If you're surprised by the selection, then you've probably been living under a rock for the past year. The Bucks are one of the youngest teams in the NBA, and they're already a playoff team led by the man, the legend, the freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who put up some gaudy numbers last season. And when Jabari was healthy, he was averaging 20 and 6 for the Bucks. Malcolm Brogdon, Rookie of the Year candidate. Chris Middleton, young player who in my opinion is still one of the most underrated players in this league. Tony Snell, Rashad Vaughn, all guys who will probably be better in 2020 than they are now. Also, if Giannis figures out his jump shot in the next 2 or 3 seasons, it's over. Like, it's over. It's done. Greece will take over. Number 2, the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are stacked. Like, really stacked. Stacked enough that it's actually plausible for them to consider trading their best player, Isaiah Thomas. That's just how much talent they have on their roster and how many assets they have in the future. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier will all be entering their primes in 2020. Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley will still be almost as good as they are now. That's not even taking into the consideration the potential superstar that they could have in 2020 with this year's number 1 pick. Brad Stevens has built a system in Boston that allows them to be pretty flexible with whatever player comes in from now until 2020, and there's no doubt in my mind that the Celtics will be a top 5 team in 2020 if they aren't already one right now. Number 3, the Golden State Warriors. It seems like the Warriors have been atop the NBA for longer than 3 seasons, but that's all it's been actually. In 2020, Curry and Durant will be nearing the end of their primes, but based on how dominant they've been these past 3 years, especially in the regular season, that will still be enough to keep them near the top in the league. Neither one of the big 4 seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, and as long as they remain intact, they'll remain contenders, especially if one of the young players like Patrick McCaw develops into another quality role player for them. Number 4, the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah, I know the Spurs are old. By 2020, both Ginobili and Parker are going to be retired, but Kawhi will only be 28, in the smack middle of his prime. Guys like Jonathan Simmons, Patty Mills are still going to be on the team probably, and most importantly, as long as Popovich is coaching this team, they're not going anywhere. The Spurs have basically been a top 5 team for almost every season these past 20 years. There will be plenty of free agents from now until then for them to take a shot at, plenty of talent that they'll draft in later rounds of the draft like they always have done. If I had to bet my money, I would bet that the Spurs are a top 5 team in 2020, not the other way around. Number 5, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the last pick was the hardest for me, but I ended up going with the Timberwolves. This was tough because the Timberwolves are a bit of a wild card. The talent is clearly there, but last season they went 31 and 51, not showing much improvement over really the last decade. But I'm willing to bet that Karl Anthony Towns in 3 years will be one of the best, if not the best big man in the league. That Andrew Wiggins will figure out the other aspects of his game he needs to work on to make himself into a legitimate all-star player, and Zach LaVine will work on his handles, cutting down on turnovers, becoming more than just a dunker. I'm also a big believer in Tom Thibodeau. I think this man doesn't get enough credit for being the defensive mastermind that helped the Celtics win the 2008 championship, and being the head coach for a Chicago Bulls team that was competitive almost every single year, despite the many injuries they had to go through. Granted, it's hard seeing the Timberwolves attract a marquee free agent of any kind, but if the pre-existing young talent on this roster, Cat, Wiggins, LaVine, Tyus Jones, Shabazz Muhammad, develops into the type of players that I think they have the potential to be, they won't need any star free agent to become a top 5 team. Now, some honorable mentions that I left off of this list. First off, the Cavs. So I have to admit, I don't like the feeling of betting against LeBron, but history has shown that superstars at 35 years old, which is what LeBron will be in 2020, will start to experience major decline. Now, of course, if there's anyone who can beat that trend, it's the machine that is LeBron James. But I'm also taking into consideration that Kevin Love will be 31, all the present veterans on this team will either be washed up or retired, and either the Bucks or the Celtics could potentially catch up to them and knock them out of the top 5. Another team that deserves an honorable mention is the 76ers. This is not about whether or not I quote-unquote trust the process. This is more about whether or not I think 3 years is enough for the process to shine. The main reason I left them out is that there are too many things that have to go right for them to become a top 5 team by 2020. Too many unpredictable variables. The first being Embiid's health. Another being how good Ben Simmons is going to be. He could be a bust or he could be the next Magic Johnson. We don't know. Can they find more shooters? Can they find a star point guard or a better star perimeter player? All of these are legitimate factors that could potentially stop them from becoming an elite team in 3 years. And the last honorable mention I want to give that I really almost put on this list is the Utah Jazz. Now there are 2 conditions upon which I think the Jazz could become a top 5 team. The first is obviously Gordon Hayward staying, which is far from a guarantee, seeing as he has a lot of interest signing with the Boston Celtics. The second condition is Rodney Hood developing into an all-star guard. So I was really high on Rodney Hood coming out of college, and he's shown some flashes of star shooting guard potential, but he's just so wildly inconsistent at this point in his career that there's a big danger that he could end up just being a role player like J.R. Smith instead of being one of the best shooting guards in the league. But if those 2 things can happen, I think the Jazz could be a top 5 team. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. What are your top 5 teams in 2020? Leave them down in the comments section below. I'm interested to see what you think. If you're new on this channel, make sure you subscribe for more NBA content coming out because I post a lot of NBA content. Other than that, thank you for watching MDJ, where we talk everything NBA.
Feeling kinda strange, feeling kinda off. Don't know what's really going on. I feel like something's up and I can only guess the cause. It doesn't matter when, doesn't matter where. Always hits me when I'm unprepared. I just feel like it's